Well, hello, everybody. We are live. I am Virginia Amos. This is episode number 16 of From Our House to Yours. I'm a realtor with Caldwell Banker in Old Town Alexandria. And normally I have people on with me. We've been specializing in talking to small business owners and other individuals in Alexandria. But today it's just me. To tell you the truth, I had planned to take the whole week off and pretend I was at the beach, Memorial Day weekend, the whole thing with going away. But then I had the chance to have a very special guest on this Friday, and I decided, well, I'll just go ahead and fill in today and then get right back in the swing of things on Friday. So I thought we'd talk just about a variety of things today, and starting with, how did we get started doing this? Well, some of you may know, but back in January, I decided that I wanted to do a series of videos for my YouTube channel about small business owners in Alexandria. And I was really excited about it. I picked out my first business, which was Rubini Jewelers on North Washington. I've been going there for years. When I rode down at the boathouse, I rode with Jaime and Jamie, and it was great. So I did my due diligence. I hired a videographer, actually someone who lives right here in Delray, the talented Mark Ashley. And that reminds me, we'll have to have Mark on sometime. He's a really interesting character. He's a great videographer. He worked in Hollywood, and it was terrific working with him. I put on my Hollywood face. We had a script. We went out. We had the lights, camera, action. Oh gosh, we probably did about 5 takes. And it was great. It was just great. And we were going to debut that video the weekend of March Madness, because Caldwell Banker was also going to debut their new logo, which is the North Star. And I thought, wow, this will just be great. In the meantime, I had already lined up my second business to interview, and that was going to be Spicecraft up on Mount Vernon Avenue, a new Indian restaurant that Michael and I just fell in love with. As it happened, between the time that I had talked to Spicecraft and we were going to film, I got a cold. And so we decided to postpone it by 1 week because I didn't want to, sniffle my way through the interview. And then, lo and behold, the pandemic. Out of seemingly nowhere, we were hit with the pandemic. So it put all my plans to the side. I couldn't go out of the house. I couldn't do anything. And I just was kind of scratching my head about what I was going to do. So I did a few just Facebook Lives talking about what we were doing, being, quarantined, what we were watching on TV, what we were eating, what new pair of earrings I was wearing. And from that, it kind of evolved into, well, maybe we should, I have friends who are business owners, and one in particular, and I thought about her and I said, wow, what is she going through right now? And it turns out that was my very first interview with Carrie Kelly, who owns the Cookery in Shirlington Village. Now, the unfortunate thing is that I did not record. I did not download that recording, so it is not reposted anywhere. But we're going to go back and do something with Carrie and take care of that. So once that started, and I realized really how easy it was and how much fun it was, and how much people really appreciated hearing about what businesses were doing, that just kind of started us off. And I set up a very ambitious schedule of doing 3 interviews a week. And it's been amazing. I have never been at a loss for people to talk to. In fact, I just have scratch pads all over the place with businesses that I know about and that I want to talk to. I've also found some new and interesting people that have just that I didn't know about, and that has really been, I think, the greatest advantage, the greatest thing about doing this is that not only have I met some really wonderful people, but I now have a whole new set of um, contacts and people to refer clients and friends to, whether it is for a mobile uh, bicycle repair business or something a little bit more serious. 2 women who are fabulous, they're speech pathologists, and they have such a unique way of working with children. A chiropractor in Old Town who specializes in postnatal care for women. I mean, the list just goes on, which is a real testament to the vibrancy of Alexandria. And I will say that in every single one of these cases, what I have really noticed is that everybody has remarked about how supportive the business community has been, whether it's the Delray Business Association or it's the Old Town Business Association, whatever it is, that those associations have done everything they can, even if it is just checking in to say, how are you feeling today? So that the businesses have felt supportive. They have found ways to go forward, to pivot is the big word these days, and to carve out a place for themselves in what is still a very uncertain time and economic time, particularly for us. So that has been immensely satisfying. And sitting here today, my guess is that we are going to be continuing this throughout the year. We may make a few changes, maybe go to only 2 a week. We'll have to see. After all, I am still selling real estate, which is a really nice thing. I've just had the luxury to do this while things have slowed down a bit. So that's been great. By the way, if you're out there watching, I would love for you to just share this on your Facebook timeline so that as many people can tune in as possible. These broadcasts stay up for 7 days. And then after that, we are on Twitter, we are on Nextdoor, LinkedIn, YouTube, and we do IGTV videos on Instagram. So there are lots of different places to find us. And we'd actually love to have you check us out on all of those, particularly on Instagram and YouTube. And I'm going to ask you something. I normally don't ask people to do this, but I'm going to ask you to subscribe to YouTube. Now, the reason I really like subscribing to YouTube is, how like if you buy something on the internet and they say, do you want to get a lot, newsletters, and you subscribe, it means that your inbox is just filled with emails. Once a week, twice a week, there's always a sale, there's always a special. Well, on YouTube, unless you specifically ask to get notifications, you don't get any of those emails. It just means that anytime you want to, you can go to Virginia Amos on YouTube, and there will be all of my videos. And if you want notifications, that's great. But I'd love to have you subscribe. It makes me feel good. So let's talk a little bit about what is happening in real estate. After all, that's kind of why we're here. In April, there was, first of all, there were some legislative acts passed in Richmond. And for those of you who are tenants and have rental properties, this may affect you more than anybody. No longer can late fees be imposed on tenants unless it is already stipulated in the lease. So if you have somebody in there now and they have not been able to pay, say because of the pandemic, you cannot impose a late fee unless you had originally put it in the lease. So something to think about going forward. There is also, you can no longer terminate a tenant because on the basis of income. That's a new one. And finally, there is going to be a tenant's bill of rights. We haven't seen it yet, but we know that that has been written into law, and so will be coming soon. Also, when you get ready to sell your house, there is something that all realtors have to have as part of the set of documents, and it's called the Virginia Residential Property Disclosure Act. And basically, it's just kind of a blanket document that has kind of a buyer beware list. Like, you know, there could be this, there could be that. They've added two things. One of them is radon, which is perfectly, you know, understandable. And most people, when they get a home inspection, they will also have it tested for radon. But the second one they added just absolutely cracks me up, particularly here in Northern Virginia. And that is the buyer should beware that the ground on which the property sits or the surrounding ground, the yard, may contain marine clay. Now, if you have lived in Northern Virginia for any length of time, you know there is nothing but marine clay. And it takes a huge amount of amending to make it habitable for anything. So I just thought that one just cracked me up. I thought that was so obvious, but you know, now it's part of the Virginia Residential Property Disclosure Act. So on to home sales. In April, there was a decided downturn in listings. As a matter of fact, it's the lowest volume of new listings in 10 years. At the same time, the decrease in inventory made buyers that much more active. And we also had the highest monthly median sales that we've had in 10 years and the lowest number of days on market, which was 10 that we've had in 10 years. So the two things worked hand in hand. Listings decreased, prices went up, days on market went down. Kind of the perfect storm. What we know, though, is that the decrease in listings is not because people don't want to sell, but because they were just stepping back and pausing. My guess is, and there's no actual scientific data, but I think it's just common sense, is that a number of those people who decided to step back were actually going to be in owner-occupied houses. And they didn't want to go through having people come in and out of their house. My guess is if the house was vacant, it you could absolutely go ahead and put it on the market. I have one coming next week. It's vacant. It's going to be fine. At the same time, those same people who held back in April are still very interested in getting into the market. And we expect to see a big jump in June and July as local restrictions are lifted and the numbers, the number of deaths, the number of illnesses decreases. So that's something to look forward to. Now, specifically in the DC metro area, the listings were down year over year by 37.4%. And Alexandria City was just right behind that at 36.2%. We are such a reflection of what happens in this metro area. Same thing with closed sales year over year. The DC metro area was down 19%, and Alexandria City was down 16.2%. So it's nothing that we wouldn't have expected. A couple weeks from now, I'll have the May numbers, and it'll be interesting to see what those look like. But nobody is really unduly worried. The demand is still out there. The military is going to start moving people again, starting with a higher ranks down. So that will help. So those are my real estate tidbits for today. Pretty straightforward. But now I wanted to give you my tip of the day, which I did strictly for myself. It was totally an organizational thing. And I thought I would share it with you, particularly for those of you who are gardeners, like I am. I buy at least one or two new plants every year. Quite often it's more than one or two, but we don't want to, we don't want to talk about our indulgences. And I have friends with whom I exchange plants. I'll be walking through my friend Elisa's yard and I say, oh my God, I want a piece of that. Or I have another master gardener friend up in Beverly Hills, and Susan is always emailing me and saying, Jenny, would you like a piece of this or a piece of that? And I love it. But a year goes by and I can't remember who gave me what, where I planted it, and even the things that I bought. You have all those little tags that come on the plants, and ideally, you save those. In fact, a friend of mine told me that she puts them over a nail in her shed. Well, that's great, but again, if a year goes by and the plant didn't come up, and then it comes up the next year, I don't remember when I did any of this. But this year I finally came up with an idea. Since we spend so much time on our phones anyway, I have an app on my iPhone called Over, Over. And it lets you do a lot of things to photographs, including putting in backgrounds and graphics, but it also lets you write text on the photo. So what I did is, and I don't know how well you all can see this, but I'm going to just kind of hold it up here. There we go. First of all, I went on my phone and I created an album that says 2020 Spring and Summer. And then each time I bought a plant, let's see here. Each time I bought a plant, I took a picture of the plant with the tag. So there we go. So I took a picture of the plant with the tag, and then I put it into my album. But when it came to things like that my friends had given me, I not only did I take a picture of the plant, but then I went into Over and I typed in the person's name. And here I put the date, the person's name who gave me that plant, so that next year when I go back, here's one that my next door neighbors gave me, Luana and Braden. And here's one, somebody brought me these yesterday, blue columbines, came from Caroline Carbaugh over in Maryland. So next year, when these things start coming up or I'm missing something, I can go back to my album and I'll have everything there that I did in 2020. I am so impressed with myself for coming up with this. But then as I was writing this down, I realized that if, for instance, if you're somebody who gives a lot of Christmas presents or you have a lot of family, this could also be a great way to keep track of what you give at Christmas from year to year, because really, I forget. Sometimes I have to call my children and say, "What did I give you last year?" So it's just my little tip for the day to help you get organized. Because believe me, I am always looking for something. So okay, next week coming up on Monday we have Mary Wadlin, who is the publisher of The Zebra, All the Good News here in Alexandria. We're also going to be talking with the founder of Lost Boy Cider. Lost Boy Cider. Fascinating story of how digestive issues got him hunting for things that he could drink. It's great. We're going to be talking the next few weeks to a neighborhood pharmacy and also to a former pharmaceutical sales rep who is now a caterer and specializes in hospitals and healthcare organizations, but is also doing kids cooking lessons online. And we're going to be talking to her and meeting one of the very young ladies who took her class, Miss Ellen. So I'm excited about that. But most of all, I'm excited about Friday, day after tomorrow. Our very special guest is going to be Michael Brown, who is the chief of police, the Alexandria City Police Department. He's a wonderful man. I just adore him personally and professionally. He has a PhD. I don't think we can say that about a lot of police chiefs. And he's going to talk to us about, what it's been like for the police force, for first responders during this pandemic, and, how it has impacted their ability to maintain law and order compassionately, safely in the city of Alexandria. So, and what's to come? I know that Old Town on the weekends has been a little less than ideal when it comes to safely distancing. So it'll be interesting to see what Chief Brown has to say. That's Friday at 4 o'clock. We cannot wait. We hope you'll tune in. And remember, go to YouTube, Virginia Amos, and subscribe. And we'd also love to have you subscribe on Instagram at Virginia Sells Real Estate. So until Friday, that is it. And we will see you then. And thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it. Bye.